This week on ICN, the stories you should have heard but didn't. Who should you turn to for advice during this economic collapse? ICN will name names. Governments show growing concern over civil unrest. What happens when the world's 10th largest economy runs out of cash? Lyme's is rapidly moving up the list of infectious diseases. Those stories and more next on Informed Citizen News. Hello and welcome to ICN, Informed Citizen News, January 25th, 2009. Before we get to our first story, we at ICN want to thank our viewers for the growth of the program over our first 2 months. We want the unbiased news reports that we present to get out to more people. We depend on you to send the Informed Citizen News channel and video links out to your family and friends. Please encourage them to become regular viewers. In return for your help, we will continue to report news that is critical to all Americans. We don't receive any money for these broadcasts and can present news as it should be done, with respect to all and bias toward none. Left, right, and center are all fair game for uncovering incompetence, corruption, and abuse. The press is supposed to hold those in political, social, and economic power to account on behalf of the American people, and we aim to do just that. Now to the news this week. Who should you turn to for financial advice during this economic collapse? ICN believes you should select from the small group of people who actually predicted our economic calamity. The most prominent and most accurate investment expert has been Peter Schiff. He was mocked and ridiculed on CNBC, CNN, and Fox News prior to 2007 for his predictions that subprime loans would bring down the U.S. economy. This week, Fortune magazine did a profile of him, and the Wall Street Journal printed his editorial, which contained his prediction for the future of the U.S. economy. In his op-ed, Peter Schiff predicted that China, Japan, and other foreign lenders would slow down their purchases of U.S. treasuries, and may even become sellers of U.S. bonds. That means that these countries are not only going to stop lending money to America, but they also want the U.S. to pay back the old loans. That spells bankruptcy for the U.S. Schiff doesn't think it will happen all at once, but it will be a trend of the next few years. They call him Dr. Doom for a reason, and he says America's future doesn't look bright. Another person that deserves credit for predicting America's problems over the past few years while facing ridicule is Ron Paul. Whether you like or dislike his politics or him personally, you have to give him credit for his foresight on our economic troubles. Ron Paul was the only candidate in both major parties who truly addressed America's dire economic circumstances. All the while the other candidates promised everything under the sun, knowing that no new program required significant money could be delivered. So when you look for financial advice, don't look to those who were blindsided by this crisis. Look to those who saw it coming, because they are most likely to succeed in helping you through these financially troubled times. Great Americans are those who face ridicule and taunting for their ideas and still stick to their principles. History vindicates the deserving, and history will treat Peter Schiff and Ron Paul well. One of the developing stories ICN is monitoring is the growing civil unrest around the world. This week, China canceled all police and security breaks, holidays, and vacations. A Hong Kong-based daily reported last Wednesday that China's weak financial condition has led to the closing of a lot of enterprises and the growing unemployment rate. There has been an increase in the number of mass incidents from those who want their unpaid salaries and protection of their rights. Public order has deteriorated. Mexico is also unraveling before our eyes. Everyone knows about the persistent economic trouble and political corruption, but now the violence is growing and getting out of control. Mexico saw over 5,300 murders in 2008. Juarez, a border town near Texas, had about 2,000 killings in 2008 and has already had 80 murders in the first 3 weeks of 2009. Tijuana saw its bloodiest year ever in 2008 with 843 killings, compared with 337 the previous year. Marines stationed at Camp Pendleton near San Diego have been restricted from visiting Tijuana indefinitely due to the rising violence. The Department of Defense considers Mexico one of the two governments in the world most likely to suffer a rapid and sudden collapse. By the way, the other government is Pakistan. American tourism to Mexican border towns has come to a halt, increasing the economic pressures. A major factor in the instability in the region is the failure of NAFTA to produce on promises to provide good-paying jobs for Mexico's shrinking middle class. Funny, NAFTA didn't work out too well for Americans either. Experts say they don't believe the nation-state of Mexico will ever just cease to exist, but regions of the country are no longer under its control. Yes, those are the regions closest to the U.S. The world's 10th largest economy has run short on cash. They will suspend tax refunds, welfare checks, and student grants, just to name a few emergency measures. Who is this failing state? None other than California. The state controller is holding back over $3.7 billion in payments due to lack of funds. The payments to be frozen include nearly $2 billion in tax refunds, $300 million in cash grants for needy families and the elderly, blind, and disabled, and $13 million in grants for college students. Another fine example of government doing what it does best, spending beyond its means. Good job, California. Shifting now to health and an update on Lyme disease. Many have heard of this disease and have thoughts of people who are tired all the time, sore, and depressed. Lyme is a disease with devastating consequences to those who do not discover and treat it in its earliest stage. Lyme disease now affects more people a year than HIV/AIDS, and diagnosed cases are increasing at a rate of 50% a year. The CDC estimates the actual numbers of those infected each year is at least tenfold of what is documented. Lyme disease is one of the most controversial illnesses in the history of medicine and is the fastest growing infectious disease in the U.S. It's quickly sweeping the country and is referred to by some as a medical tsunami. Lyme was discovered in the 1970s in a suburb of Old Lyme, Connecticut, when a mysterious outbreak of what appeared to be arthritis affected several neighborhood children. The disease is transmitted by the bite of an infected deer tick, also known as the black-legged tick. Immature deer ticks can be very small, about the size of the head of a pin. Adults are slightly larger, but both have the potential to transmit the disease. The first symptom of Lyme may be, but not necessarily, a red rash in the shape of a target, often accompanied by one or more nonspecific symptoms, such as fatigue, chills and fever, headache, swollen lymph nodes, and joint and muscle pain. Lyme is one of the most difficult to diagnose infectious diseases. If Lyme is not caught and treated in its initial stages, most say it is not curable and can result in total physical and mental devastation to its victims and emotional devastation to their families. If not diagnosed and treated, symptoms can expand to heart irregularities, paralysis, excruciating and constant pain with numbness and weakness in the arms and legs, brain inflammation that causes a loss of ability to concentrate and remember, and arthritis. Doctors are not taught how to diagnose and treat the disease, and it does not appear frequently in medical literature. Doctors who have experience with the disease make a correct diagnosis only 50% of the time. ICN has always insisted that you are your best advocate, and alternative medical solutions like naturopaths can help with elusive diseases like Lyme's. Some possible solutions for Lyme's may include long-term antibiotics, herbs, MMS, which is also known as miracle mineral supplement, Rife-type frequency generators, change in diet with exercise, supplements, detoxing of heavy metals, and vegetable juicing. If you suspect you may have Lyme's, go to www.acam.org to find a naturopath in your area. Make sure you ask if they are Lyme's literate. If not, keep looking. On a final note, Americans have a new president this week. We want to wish him well, as he will need all the luck he can get over the next 4 years. Although we are pessimistic about America's future, we hope that the actions he takes benefits all Americans and do not move us further toward economic and social chaos. Good luck, Mr. President. You're going to need it. That's it for this week. Thank you for joining ICN. From all of us at Informed Citizen News, have a great week.